Hello, I'm Hitesh Boghani from University of South Wales, and I would like to talk to you about my work on voltage control on MFCs. Just to give you an overview, that I'll be talking about why we are interested in controlling the MFC voltage, and then move over to the methodologies and look at the results later on. So let's start with the motivation. Basically, considering MFCs fed inline hydraulically, as shown in the picture, which shows 5 MFCs in a single tube. The lower end is the inlet and opposite the outlet. When we look at the power from these cells, we find that the power drops as we progress towards the outlet. Of course, what we don't expect to do is connect the dissimilar cells in series where we have power mismatch. So, in order to control the system, we need to understand its behavior in terms of its dynamics and so on. So, previously I looked at extracting mathematical relationship between the output and input. I followed the system identification tool, which is an established field in itself in modeling systems for control purposes. So I took a sandwich type MFC and connected 2 resistors in parallel to it. I used relays to switch between the two in a PRBS fashion, which stands for pseudo-random binary signal, a kind of a white noise. You can see this in the top left graph. So I used the resistor as an input and looked at the voltage as the output from MFC. I used small perturbation in 50 ohm steps ranging from low electrical load going towards the high load, towards the maximum power. I had also looked at the step responses from the same for the same range. From the graph, from the data generated, I extracted mathematical models using system identification toolbox within the MATLAB. So I assumed the response from MFCs to follow first order type response, and so I modeled them accordingly. Here in the bottom of the graph, you can see the mathematical form of a first order system, which contains time constant and steady state gain. What I found was that the time constant was increasing as we moved in our operating range from lower input load corresponding to lower voltage towards the higher loading corresponding to the higher voltage. Steady state gain didn't remain the same either, and that was also varying. So I guess what I'm trying to say now is that the response from MFC was quick when we have had a small step change at a lower electrical loading, that is lower voltage level. But when the same size of step is demanded at higher electrical loading, that is at higher voltage level, the response from MFC is much slower. Therefore, clearly the system is not linear. Let's imagine that the MFC is a conical vessel and we have the flow of electrons coming in to fill it up, which raises the voltage to a level. We extract the electrons when we complete the circuit between the 2 electrodes. In order to maintain the voltage, we need to draw electrons at a rate to match the incoming rate But of course it's not constant, because there is change in substrate concentration, conductivity, pH, temperature, and so on. So we use the electrical resistor in order to restrict or increase the current flow to match the incoming flow in order to maintain the voltage level. Here the system is non-linear, so the controller that is optimized to control the voltage at lower level is not appropriate for the higher level. So it would give a sluggish response, just like a moped engine cannot be fitted onto a Ferrari, right? And the same goes for the other way around. Therefore, we need to either have a non-linear controller, or we can employ a linear controller whose parameters can change with respect to the operating level. Here we can linearize the model for a small range, and we can do that over the whole operating range. So let's look at how we employ this. We have input to the MFC in terms of electrical resistor, and output from the MFC in terms of voltage. We want to set the voltage, so we compare to the voltage from MFC, and we generate an error. We determine the control parameters based on the level of operation and use those parameters in our PID controller to generate effort in terms of voltage. I used potentiometer as an actuator, so I convert the effort into number of steps to go up or down, and therefore we complete the whole control loop. So we connect the potentiometer to the MFC, we measure the voltage, we decide that we need to go up or down, in this case up, and we measure the voltage again, and we keep going on, and this is all happening automatically, fast and continuous. The picture here shows the tubular MFCs that I used in this study. Let's look at the results. As we can see here, that the controller was able to control voltage at all levels satisfactorily. At lower voltages, some noise can be seen, which was due to the lack of resolution in potentiometer. In the bottom graph here, it can be seen that the steady state is 0. Also, you can see that the resistor value was changing in order to match the voltage level. Zooming on to some of these steps, it can be seen that the controller is able to match the voltage within a couple of minutes. Also, you can see the steady state error is 0, and electrical resistance is automatically varied in order to maintain the voltage level. Just to show you as well that the anode potential was not controlled, but only the voltage across the two electrodes was controlled. Also, you can see the controller gain was varying according to the operating level. So what about the disturbance on the system that was caused by the operating environment? We looked at the disturbance caused by temperature and substrate concentration. The MFCs were operated in batch mode with substrate concentration. As you can see on the lower bottom graph, the voltage diminishes significantly quite quickly in about 20 hours, as shown by identical MFCs running on the same substrate. But you can see on the top left graph, the controller was able to maintain the voltage up to 50 hours, by which there was not enough substrate to sustain the voltage, and also the resistance had maxed out, as you can see in the bottom graph below. So the depletion of substrate was compensated by increase in resistance to restrict the current flow in order to maintain the voltage level. So the controller that was optimized for MFC was transferred onto an identical MFC, and as you can see, it was able to control that MFC satisfactorily, both MFCs satisfactorily. Here the noise is only because of an error in resistor control algorithm implementation, which was later removed, and so the noise was also removed. So in conclusion, the MFC is nonlinear system which needs voltage control. The voltage control can be achieved easily using a simple strategy. The controller was shown to have satisfactory dynamic and steady state performance, and of course this can be useful in achieving stack control, where dissimilar performing MFCs can be brought to similar level and connect them in series. Thank you for your time and attention, and I would like to acknowledge the funders and my co-authors. Thanks very much.